Hello, kings and queens and everyone in between. In this edition of Saying Firefly Sucks Without Outright Saying It, we look at every notable 4-star alternative to Firefly and Superbreak teams. We will be listing the teams other than Superbreak that these 4 stars can work with and why they are notable at Superbreak. We will be limited to 5 characters because, I'll be honest with you, almost anybody from the DPS paths can work in Superbreak teams, so we'll only be going to mention the top dollars, right? So let's start in no particular order, shall we? Shui. Outside of Superbreak archetype, she can work well in dual carry setups for her fast breaking utility, and she can be a carry for crit-based teams. In Superbreak, Shui's biggest benefit is having a lot of toughness shred when enemies aren't broken, a damage percent conversion from her break effect stat as well as huge free break stats. Uniquely, she deals a lot of non-Superbreak damage when enemies are not broken due to her talent going off a lot with good scaling. This means that Shui in Superbreak deals a fairly high amount of damage on non-broken enemies due to talent, and still deals a higher amount if not higher when enemies are broken because of Superbreak. Unlike a lot of Superbreak characters, Shui doesn't lose nearly as much if enemies aren't broken, making her fairly reliable and not die immediately when enemies leave break. Her biggest weakness is without quantum weakness, she just doesn't feel good at all. She either shreds the enemies into dust or takes a slow crawl, and it all hinges on a quantum weakness she can force. Meaning a Superbreak team with her may be fairly awkward without Silverwolf. To add to that, her Lycone options for Superbreak is around 2, but honestly her damage is split so evenly that crit-based Lycones still do her justice. Regardless, she's one of the most popular 4-star options I'd say, and it's for a very good reason. Sushang. Like Shui, Sushang can be used for dual carry because she's very SP efficient, or she can be a crit-based carry. In Superbreak, Sushang's main benefit is she does not spend a single skill point if the enemy is broken and you're E1. This means that you can have more times to use Harmony Trailblazer's skill, which is actually a bigger deal than a lot of people realize since Harmony Trailblazer is a lot of Superbreak damage. Another thing to add is Sushang is actually so speedy that most people don't run speed boots on her because she's so fast that it doesn't matter in most scenarios. She also has a lot of advance forward to the point that she just completely bullies enemies with her skill over and over again once they're broken. Her element is physical, meaning if you're breaking a boss with her, the enemy loses a lot of HP due to the break bleed being so potent. Her biggest weakness is of course feeling bad when they don't have Fizz weakness, but a lot less than Shui though. And the fact is that Hunt Lycones except for Boot Hill signature don't give break effect, and specifically for Sushang, she's so speedy that speed Lycones may not actually hit a break point for you. Next is Luca. Luca is a sort of bizarro version of Sushang. His teams outside of Superbreak is actually DOT, and Luca Break itself is an archetype on its own. In Superbreak, you can guess what this guy is best at. It's absolutely demolishing enemies once he breaks, and punch them to death by redetonating his massive bleeds. A well-built Luca can 2-shot or even 1-shot a whole boss, and adding that with Superbreak can ensure the more extreme possibility further. But Luca is also interesting for other things. He's very SP efficient, he can dispel for additional utility if the boss has a speed buff, and has a vuln debuff for whatever reason. One of the few things that can buff Superbreak for your entire team, making everyone else hit hard. Compared to Sushang, of course, he deals less toughness damage, he has less speed, and overall he just has less personal Superbreak damage, but Luca's bleed detonation has such a high potential, he can easily catch up and make enemies cry even with Superbreak being cut. Add this to Nihility's selection of break effect light cones if you haven't had enough. Of course, that means Luca is tied to the weakness that he's always had. He really wants to be the one to break, and if the enemy just doesn't allow that, you're done. It's worse than Sushang because it needs more technical play, and worse than Shui because she does good enough damage outside of the trigger. Luca is very strong, but of course you have to play him really well compared to the other options. Pela. Pela's main teams are... she actually doesn't have a main team, she works anywhere. In Superbreak, Pela's main advantage is offering a huge defense shred with virtually no need to use SP for it. She's easily the best 4-star enabler for Imaginary MC and making Imaginary MC the carry, providing a metric ton of SP and additional dispel utility on top of that. If you choose to skill spam on Pela with tutorial and choose that route instead, she has such a low energy cost and high gain that her ult cycles extremely fast compared to everyone else at 2 turns per ultimate cast. And if enemies are ice weak, a huge AoE ult to break a lot of enemies is just what IMC needs to regain enough energy to ult. Of course, the problem that you immediately think of is that Pela's personal Superbreak damage outside of skill spamming just isn't that good. Much like Silverwolf in Superbreak, she's enabling everyone else to dunk on the enemy, which is harder to register than doing it on her own. Still, that doesn't take away from her power due to the sheer benefits that she has. Lastly, Misha. Didn't expect this one, did you? Misha's main teams are as a pseudo-sustain for either a carry or a dual carry team. In Superbreak, here's the deal. Misha just deals a lot of toughness damage on his ultimate. If you've ever seen that clip of a Venturine boss getting murdered by suitcases, you know what I'm talking about. The potential for his suitcase damage is just insane at Superbreak. To add to that, his freeze is quite useful for Superbreak simply because freezing delays the inevitable and gives you more time to chip away at the enemy. And weirdly enough, Misha has a decent defense shred on his Eidolons for everyone to deal more Superbreak damage. I don't know why he has that. Of course, Misha's bounce on ultimate is RNG. The Aventurine boss I exampled to you earlier is a very ideal scenario since all the toughness damage is concentrated. In multi-target, it's a little willy-nilly, and even hunt characters are more reliable in Superbreak in those scenarios. Regardless, he's a really good fit for Superbreak somehow. He's a weird little guy. Anyway, I hope this made you think of other ways to build your Superbreak teams that doesn't involve Firefly. Again, like I said, Superbreak is so strong that virtually anyone can clear with it at this point, so I guess this was a very useless video. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. See you next week. I'm sorry I'm so late. I've been playing Wuwa. See ya. Bye bye.